In the context of the SME, it's very important to understand that the market is also open for the SME in the continent. Sometimes we worry too much because we look internally when there's an opportunity to actually grow and take advantage of the market that exists in the continent. Instead of focusing on what could kill the SME, we need to focus on the opportunity that the AfCFTA is offering.
What you need to understand about the pharmaceutical industry is that it's a high finance intensive industry because of all the specialized sensitive inputs that we have to put into this. As industry, we need to realize the principles that therefore drive the prices down, and that is the high quantities that you need to produce, what we call accessing the economies of scale. And to access economies of scale, we need to look at Africa as a continent.
In addition, the project has supported media workshops, providing support to journalists who are covering Africa's free trade story by providing relevant data around intra-African trade.
I think it is a plus that the UNECA has brought journalists for the workshop, because where we stand right now as a continent, we need to understand, especially as storytellers, how should we...
Of AU member states to deliver the Africa we want. An integrated, industrialized Africa that is creating new business opportunities, generating jobs, and reducing poverty.
What Africa needs the most, especially in getting this thing done, is political will. There is no price attached to political will. It's us deciding that we really want to do this. Our willingness to share the African market, our willingness to share or to pool resources to build capacities that are going to actually create a huge industrial presence in Africa that is African and African owned, and we're not just consumer community for the rest of the world.
Well, good afternoon. It's an exciting day to have you on board of this summit, which really started without really our intentional planning on the International Women's Day. And it was such a pleasant surprise for us, actually, that we got going from that day. And those of you who were with us on that specific moment, you remember we were really dialoguing around Africa's new landscape for doing business with ease. It's a theme that came up a number of times, kept recurring, which tells us it remains a primary concern. And we hope that when we launched into day 2, where we were talking about the paradigm shifts that are necessary to really take us to a new way of seeing and a new way of being, that some of the fears we have about doing business in Africa are being allayed as we go. Then we launched into our 3rd day, where we were talking about strategic opportunities for doing business in Africa for maximum impact, which was really a day to really dialogue around some of the key things we can think about, some of the life-changing moments that we can say if Africa focuses on a diversification of the various projects that we can do, specializations according to different regions and nations across the continent, we can share the burden and action around Africa's innovators, the frontiers for doing business diversification. And I remember one of the comments that came up was, well, we are talking and talking and talking. Well, actually, that's where we start. We have to have conversations that are deliberate and intentional for us to consolidate around those ideas so that we actually prioritize things that need to be done, then the doing follows suit. So those of you who kind of felt like we were just talking, I wanted to realize that these conversations are crucial to take us where we need to be. I really want to welcome you today, day 5, unifying the Continental implementation approaches and strategies. This is a crucial day because today is really about the so what question. We have dialogued, we have debated, we have posed questions. Today, the crucial question we want to be asking and answering is really, so what? The idea behind this summit is really not that we would just talk. We really want to see this Continental initiative by us, for us, become a success story. We're going to showcase some of the emerging success stories with the view to multiplying some of these successes across the board. So we hope you'll be inspired. We hope you walk away at the end of this day with a few takeaways and saying, we're going to go forward. We're going to be calling for papers. We're going to be calling for further participation. This is series 1 of 5. So we're going to come back and say, where are we and where are we going? Are we still on track? So this is not the final moment. This is only the beginning. So ladies and gentlemen, feel welcome, your excellencies who are with us, the honorables, members of parliament and ministers, heads of industry and chambers of commerce, our speakers, panelists, presenters, our summit organizers who are here with us today, our distinguished ladies and gentlemen. We want to welcome you to day number 5 of our summit. So feel welcome. I have with me my distinguished co-moderator, Dr. Margaret King, who needs no introduction. She was a moderator on our second day. So Dr. King, over to you just to do a welcome greeting to our participants. We'll need to unmute you, madam. There we go.
I am so sorry. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much, Dr. Sam Duga, for just being your phenomenal self. It's a pleasure working with you. And of course, all protocols observed. I just want to take the time to welcome all of you to this, what you call an August event right here in March. Thank you for being here. It would not be a summit of a lifetime without you. And we have been saying that this is a different type of summit. We have been talking and talking in Africa, and that's a good thing. But it's also very important to move the talk into action, and that's exactly what this summit is all about. That is why today is very pivotal to the success of sustainable development activities in Africa. Today, we're going to be looking at all of the talks that have been going on all week long, and we truly appreciate you for taking some serious time out of your very busy schedule just to be with us all week long. And we're going to grab that you have been talking about, look for a way of unifying the continental implementation approaches and strategies that you have been talking about. It is a planning session, and we know many of you that are business owners, if you are not planning for your business, you are already planning to fail. And so for us to use this continental free trade area effectively for the benefit of all Africans, we got to do some planning. Consider this a town hall meeting because we got to hear your voice. We want all of the stakeholders to be a part of it, no matter who you are, even if you are a student, you are a public figure, policy maker, business, whoever. We want to get your input. And that's why we had put out a call for papers. Please make sure you run into our website and send in your papers to be incorporated. We also ask you, get in there and complete the survey so we can hear from you. We want to hear from you. And once we finish with all of this talking and hearing your voice as well, then we move into actions. What are the action items? We pick it up one by one. Africa is never going to be the same with this. So God bless you. Get ready to have a phenomenal day and enjoy yourself. Back to you, dear Dr. Nduga.
Thank you so much for that resounding opening statements, just welcoming all our various participants. Just to let you know that if you are not an English speaker, the translations are available to you. If you just look at the bottom scroll, there's an interpretation tab. You can just use that to select a language for your convenience. So make use of that. We also have a chat line, which is quite lively. If you would like to share your contacts, as you would do normally in summits, to exchange business cards, do post your details over there so that if anybody needs to connect with you, at least they will have your details available. So without further ado, I was just checking to see if Dr. Arikana is now with us, to hand over to her to begin the welcome remarks. I just want to see if she is there. I see a hand, so she's definitely on there. So special welcome to you. As we have stated, we're not going to go into extensive introductions of all our speakers to save on time. We do have their full profiles on our website, so we want you to be aware that you can go there. Dr. Arikana comes to us as a founder and CEO of African Diaspora, and so we want to welcome her. Diaspora and Development Institute. She's the former ambassador of the African Union to the United States, quite outspoken, as you would know. So most of you have heard her before. So, ma'am, would like to welcome you to this platform. The floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you, everyone, the listeners who are listening from around the world. Thank you for this opportunity to address you today. To the excellent
Yeah, ma'am, we think we have lost you. If we could...
Yes, I'm back. I'm back. Yes, the internet just kicked me out for a second. To the excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, organizers of this wonderful conference, the leadership of the Association of African Universities, thank you for what you do. My name is Arikana Chiombori Kwao, and we're here to talk about a very important topic, which is the unification of Africa under the African Continental Free Trade Area. 1963, our Pan-African leaders, at the invitation of Emperor Haile Selassie, met in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. They came to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia with one thing in mind, with the idea of creating an Africa that spoke with one voice. This was as a follow-up and disgust of many years of colonization. The issue of an Africa speaking with one. I keep getting short. The issue of an Africa speaking with one voice was an issue of agency. So it is they came to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, in two groups. The first group was the Casablanca group, which were 7 countries: Ghana, Guinea, Mali, Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia, and Algeria. The Casablanca group said Africa was to unite and African Union was now. The Monrovia group, on the other hand, were the nationalists who said African Union now, but let's go slow on unity. Unfortunately, the Casablanca group, which were the mighty, and were calling and pushing for an Africa that spoke with one voice, they failed to garner enough support from the nationalists. So it is the mission that they had come
Which is the speaker?
What? I keep getting kicked out. Can you hear me?
Yes,
we can hear you now. Let's carry on.
Okay. I suppose I could start all over. I've been kicked out a couple of times. Thank you once again. I started by saying 1963, our Pan-African fathers, at the invitation of Emperor Haile Selassie, met in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, to discuss an Africa that spoke with one voice, an Africa that was free of colonization. Unfortunately, they went Addis Ababa divided. They were in two groups. The Casablanca group, who were Ghana, Guinea, Mali, Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia, and Algeria. They said Africa for the Africans, African Union now. It is during that summit that Kwame Nkrumah proclaimed that you are not African because you're born in Africa, but rather you are African because Africa is born in you. Sadly, the Casablanca group were the minority. The rest of were the Monrovia group. They were the nationalists. They said, let's hold back on this United Africa thing. Let's take it slowly. So it is the Casablanca group lost. We often say, when the Casablanca group lost in 1963, Africa lost. Our leaders in 1963 came up with a compromise decision, which they named the Organization of African Unity. Since then, for over 50 years, our African leaders would meet twice a year, and the issue of an Africa speaking with one voice would be raised, and year in and year out, they failed to reach a consensus until April of 2018, when our leaders finally met and agreed on this decision, which we are now calling the African Continental Free Trade Area. This is huge. This is huge, and it's a turning point for the continent. But in order for the African Continental Free Trade Area to succeed, we must also understand some three basic challenges that we have to deal with as the Africans. Let's all be clear about one thing: the building of the Africa we want is our responsibility and no one else. But in order for us to succeed at the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area, we must understand the roadblocks that are along the way. You see, you got to understand the colonizers when they met in Berlin in 1884. They came up with a strategy. They met precisely to decide, to strategize on how to see to it that Africa and her children are forever defeated and dominated. If I may underscore that, Berlin Conference was all about seeing to it that Africa and her children are forever defeated and dominated. To this day, Berlin Conference remains in place. So we must understand what Berlin Conference has done to Africa if we are to undo it. The bigger challenge that we have right now is the brain drain out of Africa. No amount of money put into healthcare, no amount of money put into education, no amount of money put into agriculture will bring the desired results, because the capacity that we need is not enough. We don't have enough capacity in Africa, which is why contracts are going to China, contracts are going to Europe, contracts are going everywhere else. In addition, we have limited financial resources. So while we are celebrating the African Continental Free Trade Area, let's also understand that we could very easily have opened up Africa for those who can afford to come and pay for these contracts. This time, they're coming to take over for good. We must be clear about that. What is the African Continental Free Trade Area all about? It's not about having outsiders, foreigners coming to Africa to create jobs for you, so Africans are now reduced to being workers. Africans are now reduced to being happy that they have a train to ride from Cape Town to Cairo, that they can fly in planes that they don't own around the continent, that they can buy fabric from factories that they don't own. No, African Continental Free Trade Area is saying, while you like to live in a brick house that you built, you must also own the brickyard. While you like to fly in planes across your continent, you must also own the airline. You must own the airport. And to do that, we need to be strategic. We need to unite. We need to understand the challenges. So while we celebrate this monumental decision by our African heads of states, let's make no mistake about it. Not only unity within the continent, but unity of all Black people around the world. Because what is in Africa belongs to us. We are the inheritors of this amazing continent. And we have a responsibility to defend it by any means necessary. Defend it not only for ourselves, but for our children and generations to come. And that's why we are here today. Continue the conversations that tell us that the building of Africa we want is our responsibility and ours alone. That while we may not have all we need within Africa, we're going to reach out to our brothers and sisters in the diaspora. And I know from the conversations I've been having with many of them, the brothers and sisters in the diaspora are also ready to join hands with the brothers and sisters on the continent in building the Africa that we want. Remember, Black people do not drive the development agenda for China. Black people do not drive the development agenda for Europe. Black people do not drive the development agenda for Mexico, for Japan, for Russia, for India. Therefore, those same people cannot come to Africa and drive the development agenda for the Africans. The development agenda for Africa must be driven by the Africans, period. That is one seat we must occupy. We have vacated that seat for far too long. That has got to come to an end. No more shall we continue to be exploited. And that takes me to the next point, which is the mind. The mind that has been so brainwashed, the mind that has been so colonized, that the self-hate, the mistrust of self and each other will always get in the way. And that means you and I need to have a serious conversation with the image in the mirror. No more shall I go to Africa and, while traveling with my white friend, my own child who looks like me would rather not wait on me and wait on my colleague. Back home, the mind. That is one serious disease that's keeping us from moving forward. If we do not decolonize our thinking, if we do not decolonize our minds, the battle of building the Africa that we want is going to be a very, very uphill battle. So allow me to leave you with these words. We are suffering from the legacy of colonization. We're not only in the doctor's office, we're not in the hospital ward, but we are in the intensive care. Whether we like it or not, that is a fact. We must wake up, which is why it's also very important that this program is being sponsored by the Association of African Universities. That is where the healing of us Black people is going to begin. It's going to begin with the reversal of the miseducation, intentional miseducation of the African. So AAU, you have a challenge. You have a job to do. And I trust you're going to do well. Heal thy children. The miseducation of the Africans must be reversed if we are to succeed at the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area. If we are to succeed at completing the unfinished business of our Pan-African fathers. The onus is on us. Let's start having those serious conversations with the image in the mirror. Let's occupy the seat that we have given up for far too long. The building of the Africa we want is our responsibility and no one else. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, my lady. I call her my lady. She is always on the point. We're so much in agreement with Dr. Arikana all of the time. The passion that she has for Africa is very infectious. Thank you so much, ma'am. You have a pack in there. The Berlin Conference, all the subdivisions of Africa to take over, the lines that were not supposed to be there. For AfCFTA to work, those lines must be broken. Self-love must come in. AAU must give a social re-engineering of the mind through our education. We must begin to have self-love. We cannot allow somebody else to run a face for us. And that's exactly what you have said a whole lot in there. God bless you, ma'am. We enjoy it. And that takes us to the next speaker, Mr. Gilberto Verissimo. I'm of ECCA's commission. He's going to take it from there and give us his view as to what needs to be happening here as we talk about unifying the continental implementation approaches and strategies. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, Mr. Moderator. Yeah, I am not Gilberto. I am his delegate, Kanimba Francois. I am the commissioner in charge of common market, economic affairs, monetary and financial affairs of the ECAS, Central Africa. So if you allow me, I will make my remarks in French. So for those who need interpretation, please make the necessary arrangement. If this is okay, Madame, Messieurs le modérateur, je voudrais d'abord commencer mon intervention par une plainte. Nous avons reçu votre invitation seulement il y a 2 jours. Je ne sais pas très bien ce qui s'est passé. Nous avons reçu votre invitation il y a 2 jours, le mercredi, et on était quand même surpris parce qu'on ne sait pas ce qui s'est passé. Jusque-là, nous souhaitons avoir des explications. Mais néanmoins, permettez-moi, au nom du président de la commission, de la communauté des États de l'Afrique centrale, exprimer notre gratitude et féliciter les différentes institutions qui ont eu l'idée de mettre ensemble cette idée d'organiser un sommet en ce moment par rapport avec les erreurs qui ont été commises dans le passé pour la gouvernance économique en Afrique et réfléchir comment rectifier le tir, plus particulièrement au lendemain du lancement des opérations dans la zone de libre-échange continentale, la ZERECAF. Le thème du sommet, en quelque sorte, une façon d'éclairer la nouvelle approche de la gouvernance des affaires en Afrique à travers une sorte de co-responsabilité partagée entre le secteur privé et le secteur public. Pour nous, il est très critique. Il est très critique, justement, dans le contexte de la mise en œuvre de la zone de libre-échange continentale. C'est indéniable, la ZERECAF constitue une opportunité pour amorcer une étape nouvelle dans l'histoire du développement économique du continent. Et toutefois, et je suis certainement convaincu en ayant écouté les orateurs qui m'ont précédé, le défi de comment faire pour saisir l'opportunité qui nous est offerte reste entier. Car vous conviendrez avec moi que le seul cadre réglementaire actuel de la ZERECAF ne va certainement pas induire un changement structurel significatif. Le travail reste à faire, comme a attiré notre attention l'orateur précédent. Comme vous pouvez vous imaginer avec Africaine, le marché africain est très largement ouvert à la compétition extérieure dans le contexte de la globalisation économique mondiale. Mais nous savons tous très bien que la structure actuelle du commerce africain dans le concert des nations, c'est une structure qui reflète entre autres un sérieux problème multiforme. Mais je souhaiterais, en particulier dans le cadre de mes remarques luminaires, attirer votre attention sur le concept de compétitivité économique. Le concept de compétitivité économique, nous faisons face à un sérieux problème de compétitivité économique dans le contexte de la globalisation. Et bâtir la compétitivité des économies africaines constitue, à mon avis, le défi que nous devons relever aujourd'hui pour réaliser les objectifs de la zone, nos parts de marché dans le commerce mondial, en commençant chez nous, en commençant par chez nous. Comment accroître notre part de marché dans notre propre marché africain, dans un contexte évidemment économique de globalisation où le marché africain, ça c'est un défi. Ça c'est le grand défi. Et l'importance de ce sommet, à mon avis, c'est que pour relever ce défi, le partenariat entre le secteur privé et le secteur public est fondamental. Ce défi ne pourra jamais être relevé uniquement par les gouvernements. Ce défi nécessite la participation collective de toutes les forces vives du continent pour travailler ensemble afin d'améliorer la compétitivité économique de notre continent. Ça nécessite une stratégie multidimensionnelle de développement et qui requiert un partenariat très fort entre les gouvernements, le secteur privé, la société civile pour mieux cibler les réformes structurelles à opérer pour amorcer le véritable changement. C'est là où j'ai trouvé ce sommet, malheureusement, que je n'ai pas pu suivre depuis le début. J'ai trouvé ce sommet une innovation fondamentale dans la façon dont nous avons conduit des conférences et organiser les discussions pour comprendre quelle stratégie mettre en place pour amorcer un véritable changement. Si vous permettez, il y a un certain nombre d'axes de réflexion qui, pour moi, constituent des axes importants et fondamentaux pour cette nouvelle stratégie pour le changement qui nécessite un dialogue public-privé ouvert, un partenariat réel entre le secteur privé et le secteur public pour travailler main dans la main. Le premier axe, c'est évidemment les réformes de la gouvernance économique. Je suis sûr et certain que le long de ce sommet, ce thème a été répété plusieurs fois. Comment créer des institutions capables, orientées vers le développement du secteur privé? Comment réformer notre cadre réglementaire de façon à simplifier les procédures administratives pour réduire les coûts des transactions? Comment faire pour éradiquer la corruption qui gangrène ce continent? Ça, c'est à mon avis le premier pilier du défi qui est devant nous pour que la ZERICAF puisse atteindre ses objectifs. Le deuxième pilier, nous parlons aujourd'hui de la nécessité de diversifier l'économie africaine. Nous parlons de la nécessité de développer
que nous tirons meilleur parti, mais en fait l'Afrique entière, il faut déjà que au niveau des communautés économiques régionales, il faut déjà qu'il y ait une certaine cohérence. C'est-à-dire que chaque pays, avec son approche, sa stratégie, eh bien, c'est fédéré au niveau des communautés, des CR, on fait une certaine cohérence, peut-être que ça permettra ainsi de suite de fédérer tout le reste pour qu'on ait une sorte de stratégie de mise en œuvre continentale. Mais pour y parvenir, il faut situer les responsabilités. Le secteur privé, je peux vous dire, attend. Le secteur privé a des préoccupations précises que l'on connaît, on ne va pas rappeler. Mais la responsabilité de la mise en œuvre incombe quand même aux États qui ont signé cet accord, qui se sont engagés dans cette zone de libre-échange continental africain. Donc la responsabilité au niveau des États. Donc il faut que les États mettent tout en œuvre, développent. Ça, je pense que c'est déjà cela. Il faut donc davantage se rassembler, avoir une... Prenons le cas, est-ce que aujourd'hui on va parler du climat des affaires? Vous savez que dans presque tous les pays, celui qui m'a précédé, le responsable de la CAC, a parlé de la corruption. Mais parlons déjà du climat des affaires. Est-ce qu'il est possible, au niveau continental, d'avoir un dispositif, peut-être que ça a été déjà dit et initié, mais je n'en sais rien, d'un observatoire continental du climat des affaires, qui permette justement d'attaquer ce qui peut gêner l'activité économique, notamment au niveau du secteur privé. Nous souffrons en Afrique également des statistiques fiables. Quand on veut faire une étude, qu'on veut investir, on a des difficultés. Je crois que ça a dû être discuté. J'imagine bien que les 4 précédents jours, on a dû évoquer cette faiblesse. Voilà également un blocage. Comment, au niveau de la Commission, comment ériger un dispositif continental plus opérationnel, plus efficace en matière de statistiques? Voilà. Je m'excuse, je ne interviens que je ne participe à cela qu'aujourd'hui. Alors, il y a aussi, si on veut avoir ce privé, il faut le dire, le marché, les États mettent les conditions nécessaires, et donc, par exemple, un centre de métrologie, vous savez, la guerre avec la qualité des produits, ceci ne marche pas et on ne peut pas exporter parce qu'il y a telle norme qui n'a pas été respectée. Je crois qu'il y a un ensemble de blocages je crois qu'au niveau continental, qu'il faut savoir prendre à bras le corps, mais depuis les communautés économiques régionales, ensuite l'élever au niveau continental, pour que ça permette justement que ce vaste marché soit propice aux différents acteurs économiques qui y résident et qui sont évidemment les acteurs économiques africains. J'avais également pensé à ce que ce dossier de Zélécaf, il faut peut-être qu'on mène une vraie étude de sondage pour savoir quel est le niveau de perception ou de communication dans les différents États. Est-ce que réellement les populations sont bien au courant des enjeux? Donc là aussi, il y a une certaine faiblesse en termes de communication, c'est-à-dire que les États doivent arrêter de considérer que la Zélécaf n'est que l'affaire du ministre du Commerce, mais que ça va bien plus loin que cela. Donc il faut justement que la communication soit beaucoup plus large pour saisir les porteurs de projets, pour conditionner tous ceux qui sont dans la sphère de production des biens et services. Alors moi, je pensais également à la question de la libre circulation. On en a parlé. Comment parvenir vraiment à ce qu'il y ait la libre circulation? Vous voyez, nous sommes encore là. C'est un engagement, je sais qu'on en a pris même en Afrique centrale. on prend chaque fois, à chaque sommet, on le dit, mais sur le terrain, rien n'est fait. Ça. Donc on a des blocages là qui ont l'air d'être des blocages, bon, ce sont des égoïsmes des politiques nationales, hein, il faut le dire. Bon, c'est le secteur privé qui s'exprime comme ça. Je pense qu'on a des grands défis pour permettre à ce que...
Excuse me, sir, we had to disrupt at time. We are way on the time. If you can help us sort of just wrap it up, that would help. Thank you.
Alors, je conclus en disant ceci, excusez-moi, je conclus qu'il faut, au niveau vraiment continental, qu'on regarde la question des infrastructures. Ce sont les infrastructures en matière d'énergie, de communication, de transport qui vont permettre que la ZLECAf produise ses effets au niveau continental. Merci.
Wow. Do not say I did not tell you so. Thank you so much, sir. We truly appreciate you come even at the last minute, and thank you for giving us your impactful insight as we deliberate on this issue of unifying the continent for implementation. You've touched on some pivotal points. I love the idea of the Continental Observatory to make sure businesses are just working right, and the partnership with the public sector, private sector, policymakers, and the civil society, everybody just working together for the benefit of moving Africa forward. Thank you so much. Quite a bit packed in there. At this moment, ladies and gentlemen, we are packing up the best of the best for you. And we know that our time is far gone, but we've got to hear from our keynote speaker before we move into the rest of the sessions. And we know he's a fabulous guy who is going to do the best to help us with the time constraint that we have here. But we got to hear from the keynote speaker. And it's no other person than the alternate chair of the board of directors for the Coalition of Dialogue on Africa, CODA. This wonderful man was also the former executive secretary of United Nations Economic Commission on Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency Jeanette, please take the podium, sir. It's all yours.
Thank you very much. Let me say, extend my greetings to all of the distinguished participants, all you distinguished participants that are here, Your Excellencies, honorable ministers, colleagues from the continent, from the continental private sector. Let me also, at the onset, salute our two energized moderators who look set on really moving this discussion forward. And so I salute both Sam and Margaret. I am indeed glad to be part of this summit, particularly to deliver keynote address. I believe that all of my previous speakers were actually delivering also keynote addresses. So I would take that accolade alone. I think we will share this as a collective keynote address. I wish to also acknowledge the clear and unwavering commitment of Africa's private sector to the success of Africa's continental free trade and indeed Africa's continued economic. Speakers in all these sessions, because I followed some of the sessions by two moderators, the speakers in the sessions of the past week have already highlighted the various reasons to support the successful and holistic implementation of the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. One of which is the fact that although Africa is endowed with many commodities that are traded in world markets, the continent has benefited least from global trade compared to its peers in other regions. So I will give you the statistics for that for lack of time. It must be noted that implementation of the AfCFTA is also crucial, critical to the success of Africa's development agenda, including the AU's Agenda 2063 and overall sustainable economic development in Africa. The intense support that the AfCFTA has received is a clear indication that it is one of the key programs closest to the heart of all Africans. As such, we must do all our part to ensure the full, effective, and timely implementation. Speaking on behalf of CODA and its board, which is chaired by former President Olusegun Obasanjo, we are highly engaged in seeking the success of this program, in addition to the numerous other continental agendas which we focus on. We have and will continue to work in our own way to drive Africa's development positively affect the lives of all its citizens by creating platforms for discussion and reflections towards Africa's growth. CODA's work is driven by the idea that no one has a monopoly of ideas. Therefore, dialogue and debate between multiple stakeholders are crucial to the developing actionable and beneficial policies in the continent. With this in mind, we have collaborated with the African Union to create space for constructive dialogue among many stakeholders. We had, this began with the dialogue held in May 2019 at the AU headquarters. We had a policy dialogue for African business associations. So there were several of these initiatives, and I will ask my my colleague, one who runs the CODA Secretariat, to distribute the statement so that some of these initiatives, I know we are running out of time, I will not dwell on them too much. Suffice to say that African private sector will benefit, as it is estimated that intra-African trade can increase by up to 52% now that trading has started. This is the result of tariff reductions alone, while it will more than double if non-tariff barriers, including oppressive and custom procedures, are addressed, but increased suddenly. With the AfCFTA having gone into effect at the start of this year, consideration for effective implementation as we move into its operational phase is crucial and critical. Despite being negotiated at the continental level, like many other such agreements, much of its implementation and gains will be at the country and sub-regional level. Accordingly, the AfCFTA must be deciphered and contextualized to meet national experiences on the ground. Implementation on the ground is the key to delivering on the expectations and aspirations of the Africa Free Trade Agreement. In certain instances, the agreement explicitly requires implementation through national arrangements, including national committees on trade facilitation and non-tariff barriers. This is why the African Union and its partner institutions have supported several of the member states already in taking deliberate actions to ensure that the AfCFTA works by creating the necessary environment at the national level. I also wish to point out that at this stage, that crafting a national strategy is a necessary condition, but it must necessarily include effective monitoring and evaluation mechanisms to be included as part of the strategy. Many of these national strategies take into account existing trade policies and particularly regional integration. They're identified as a way of overcoming the limitations of the small, fragmented economies in Africa by creating a larger market that would enable the exploitation of the economies of scale, create trade opportunities, and attract investment. This larger market power would further facilitate coordination and greater bargaining power in international economic development and international economic negotiations. As such, amalgamating the various implementation strategies from a regional perspective in view of the overall continental growth is also worthy of note. Indeed, our agreement is supposed to be the unifying bridge between the various trade regimes of the RECs, the Regional Economic Commissions, and the continent. It essentially builds upon the regional markets of the RECs in providing a ladder for growth of Africa's informal markets. Furthermore, many of the initiatives undertaken by the RECs, such as trade facilitation, customs cooperation, border regulation, infrastructure development, and sectoral policy coordination in turn complement the implementation of the Africa Free Trade, Continental Free Trade. Numerous factors are, however, highly relevant and noteworthy in this regard and the overall advancement of the agenda. The most notable being the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, which did indeed stall the commencement of trading under the Africa's Free Trade Agreement and has led to the review of national implementation strategies by many EU member states. However, the pandemic has also clarified the potential role that the Africa CFTA could play in generating recovery and broad-based growth towards enhancing Africa's economic resilience. Beyond the potential positive effects brought by the pandemic, such as improved regional and local manufacturing, as well as increased regional trade, it has also delivered the opportunity to accelerate commerce, the digital economy, and the fourth industrial revolution in Africa, as it were. Another issue of note is that of infrastructure integration and preparedness of countries in this regard, despite their commitment. The boosting Inter-African Trade Action Plan emphasizes that, among other requirements, the upgrade of trade-related infrastructure and improving trade facilitation processes at the borders are essential if the agreement is to succeed. Therefore, accordingly, a recent study by the Afro Champions Initiative, studied by Africa, indicates that many committed Africans, I will name them at this point, are not necessarily the most prepared in terms of trade infrastructure. Addressing these well-known issues of poor trade infrastructure will help improve the existing bottlenecks to inter-African trade. The free movement of persons within the continent is another critical factor for conservation. While there's a clear indication of enthusiasm for the success of the free trade agreement, the issues of existing visa regimes and the migration protocols between countries remain a very delicate matter. Many countries still maintain restrictions or cumbersome processes to obtain entry visas and resident permits. While this is not without recourse, there is a need to continue to think through the possibility of alternative solutions. Solutions which the private sector is well placed to deliver to this and many other challenges facing the FTA. When shall we have an Africa-wide passport? I think it's critical. It is people who move the goods and services, and therefore we are hoping that we have meaningful, timely, and important moves to really enable this free movement of people. Regardless of these factors, the benefits are clear, and it's also clear that the agreement gives the opportunity for financial development to all of Africa's groups, including women and youth, when handled properly. However, the implementation of national and regional strategies can only be effective through the coordination of private and public sector structures. This is why the organized movement of continental private sector is very welcome now more now than ever. Through coalitions such as the Regional Business Council, the African Business Council, and the assembling of key stakeholders at summits such as this, the voice of the African private sector will always be articulated and clearly to policymakers. There are, however, a lot of objectives to be taken in this agreement, and I want to terminate with that. It's now in the implementation phase, and it's important that African businesses to be aware of their role in the years ahead. These include contributing to the national CFTA strategies and action plans, which are still in development, and using the mechanisms of cooperation, trade remedies, and dispute settlement. Additionally, familiar with the institutional arrangements through which the Africa's CFTA will be governed, such as the African Business Council and the resolution and the relationship between this Africa CFTA and the REX. I think you will all agree with me that the Africa Free Trade Agreement is one of the most important, if not the most important, transboundary issue on the continent. It will not only bring us together, but it will also be a great contributor to our development. Finally, and most importantly, it is also a major milestone in achieving the Africa we want as spelled out in the EU Agenda 2063. I will not go further. I know time is not on our side, but let me thank you all for your kind attention and look forward to the continuation of our collaboration beyond this historic summit. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you, Your Excellency. It just brought music to our ears when you started by highlighting the fact that it's the private sector that is key to the continental success, among other factors, and the holistic approach that you spoke about, as well as the increased trade and revenue that you were predicting, which is all very, very encouraging, and particularly the effectiveness and efficiency that you'd like to see with some of the red tape being addressed. May I also put my name on the front line for that amazing passport that will come out, because I think that will really help with the free movement of people across the continent. So thank you for all these key pointers that you raised with us. I think we're sitting on a very firm foundation, and we want to really, really thank you for these remarks that you made, which are important to take us forward. So we really want to acknowledge your contributions as really critical for the kinds of conversations we're going to carry forward, particularly with the so what question. Thank you so much, which really closes our jump into session number 2, where we're going to really showcase some of our young innovators, and you get to hear a few of them that are out there making a difference. And straight up with the first presentation is Mr. Wena, who has nation from Benin, who I see already online. So over to you. You have about 4 minutes if you can help us. Thank you. Mr. Gladys Tawema, please, over to you.
Could you unmute yourself?
Yeah, she had just come on and I could actually hear a voice in the background. What we'll do is if Diana and Zambi Mate can also get ready, and the next 2 as well, so that we don't waste any more time. Yes, ladies, you can. Go ahead.
Okay, so I speak English.
Your line is not clear, Gladys. So maybe try and find a better spot to come through to us. Okay, so let me move to the next speaker while we try to sort out with Gladys, if that's okay, and we will come back to you, Gladys, if you don't mind, if you can hear me. Okay, thank you, Gladys. You can just hold back. We will come back to you as soon as possible. If Diana is available, Diana, you can go ahead now. So let's get that.
I think Diana is not available.
Okay, so let's go to Mr. Mustafa. If you're here,
Not available.
he's not. Mr. Mustafa.
He sent apologies.
He sent apologies. Okay, thank you. Which takes us to Mechi Ama.
Yes, I am here.
Okay, great. Go ahead. Thank you. You're loud and clear. Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you, and hello, everybody. I would like to seek for permission to share my screen.
The technical team can take care of that. Thank you.
Okay, hello everyone once again. So I am Mechi Ama, and I am the founder of Black and Natural Cosmetics, a 100% organic hair product manufacturing startup based in Cameroon. So Black and Natural started in 2017 when in the midst of socio-political crisis where there were a lot of killings, kidnaps, internet lockdowns, and numerous ghost towns. So it was really insecure. But then my friend and I were able to start Black and Natural Cosmetics. So we're reading a lot about it, carrying out a lot of research on how to produce 100% natural hair products. So it was not an easy experience as I'm from an arts background. So I had to start doing a bit of sciences at that moment. So the first sample of products we made had the smell was terrible, the appearance was really bad, the preservative too was really bad, so mold could easily grow in the product. So as such, my friends and I decided to take a virtual learning course, distance course on manufacturing natural hair care. So by the end of 2018, we got this certificate of completion and a diploma from Joan Morais Institute. And we came up with our first sample of organic hair products, which was really, really impressive. So far with our progress, we finally got our perfect texture, finally got the perfect smell and preservative. We equally got our desired packaging, and we equally got our desired packaging. So with COVID, it was really difficult for us to keep up with manufacturing because we had to import a lot of ingredients. So we tend to use plants, organic herbs around, we grew them and tried to process them in order to continue manufacturing. So in order to maintain it 100% natural. As a result, the business grew with time, and in 2020, we opened a beauty salon called Hair Clinic by Black and Natural Cosmetics. So far, I am an alumna of the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Program for 2019. Equally, I am the winner of the Ye Community's Young Innovators Contest in 2020. The feedback we've received from our customers has been really amazing, because a lot of customers who come to us, they have scalp problems, which is very common with the African textured hair. The scalp is very weak, very fragile. Hello? Okay, I'll just continue. So, and a lot of people suffer from alopecia and scalp. And the customer feedback we've been getting has been very impressive. So since 2019, We have been able to sell up to 5,000 products, and we've reached out to a population of 100,000 people. Customer feedback has been an amazing rate of 90% satisfaction rate. So our milestones in relation to the AfCFTA and the impact in our industry. Our very first milestone is to get our organic certification. Since we would like to sell in other countries, we would like to expand to other regions of Africa. Equally, since we are a natural company and we encourage eco-friendly products, we would like to equally invest in 100% in bamboo packaging, which is eco-friendly as well and is good for the environment. So we've been receiving requests from Nigeria, South Africa to expand our brand and to franchise. So we are equally considering that. And in the next 5 years, we hope to span across the entire Africa. So the AfCFTA is providing a very good platform for Black and Natural to expand its employment opportunities for youth, to encourage the consumption of African products, and this would be a very great opportunity for us, since we do rely sometimes on imports from Nigeria and Ghana as well. So I'll thank you very much for this platform on letting me talk about my business. Thank you.
All righty, so thank you very much. We love the idea of natural. Mechi, that's just amazing. Keep up the good work. We're moving straight to Jeriatu Jalo. That's another brand that we're going to be looking at. Please, could you go ahead and make your quick presentation and be conscious of the time.
Everyone, thank you. Can you?
Yeah, we got you. Go ahead. You're muted.
Can you see? Hello?
We can hear you. Go right ahead.
Okay, thank you. I was just reading it.
Go right ahead. We can see the screen. Go right ahead.
Okay. So thank you so very much for inviting me to talk about my business. Basically, what I do is I run errands and delivery services. My business name is Yorima. Yorima means send me in all of language. So I'll tagline Yorima because you've got things to do. So how it started. So while I was progressing with academy at the age of 21, I felt out of business, and then the fact that I like doing and service school, and then I was personal assistant for many people. It's really easy for me to start this. And then when I started doing just a little bit of errand runnings, and then do and have motorbike that supports you to come in and then do delivery for us. So this is the description. Me is an errands and business. We have the business, and what we do with the business, and if you want to register your business or you want to start business but you need to wait, that's when we come in. Then the other thing is with the errands is if you want to child pick up or your love pick up, then we can do that for you. If you want to shopping, then come in and do the shopping errands. So the problem we're trying to tackle is the enough all your then the traffic congestion to transit pickups and delivery. So Gambia, I'm not sure many of Gambia, but it's a very small small country, it really not be hard. For example, here, if you want location, you have to call someone and tell them to go to the other street or other street, your package. So this include in our package, we can really track, you can get the things you need done. So what we do with solution is we use technology with young and motivated Gambians who are familiar with the initiative who call a way to quickly run these errands for people. So our market and revenue right now, market resources that 15 of Gambians and in the of serving Gambians and desire our services, and we would do it. So our revenue is based on charge power for spatial and urgent services, as well as having a standard fee generic service, shopping, administrative, business registration, delivery. So this is our business model. Once this does delivery in Banjul, Finland, that's the greater of the Gambia, and then the completion time, business and personal services payment, and the subscription monthly and yearly. These are a few of the competitions we have, and this is the management team. I'm in commerce, and then we have a master's in mathematics, CFO, and we have an IT director and a human resources. That's all for you, Numa. I hope I'm able to innovate some of the young female who are here on the call and to start up anything they want. Being needy and just starting a business in the male-dominated sector is not easy. I have been going through a lot of challenges, but I'm glad to say that we are almost 3 years in the business and it's still working, and it's a start. I'm so happy for this opportunity. Thank you.
Oh, wow. That is just incredible. Well done. You are doing so well. I
tell you.
Send me.
Awesome. Awesome.
So good. We are getting excited to see what some of our young people are doing. There is a future for this continent, so that's very, very encouraging. Precious Piri, are you available, Precious?
I am.
Yeah, go ahead, Precious. Welcome.
Thank you. I hope.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you so much. My presentation is very simple. I would like to ask everyone, what do we do moving forward? The most challenging factor in growth in Africa has been implementation. It starts from Millennium Development Goals to sustainable development, and very little happens that can excite investment and economic development. Growing up, the African narrative has always been poorly told. I told my father, I want to live an African dream and be part of the much needed change through industrial development and job creation. I thought it was easy. It's not. From regulations to finance and the business environment, making it hard for innovative products to mass produce and compete on both local and international markets. In 2020, I launched an eco-friendly startup spearheading bamboo production and processing, supporting farmers and providing sustainable alternatives to plastic products, which are heavily polluting our environment. Bamboo sector is a new industry in most African countries, yet it is $1 billion business worldwide. Why can't we develop this industry? So African countries must move fast in helping businesses that are exploring and growing new industries with action and speed. Moving forward, I want to see Malawians being able to do business across the continent under AfCFTA with ease, as it will be for other countries too. It is important to implement light policy reforms that can advance the economic transformation goals of the AfCFTA, particularly targeting the young people of the continent. AfCFTA will unite Africa. So AfCFTA and development agencies programs for and across Africa, benefiting African youths, women, and businesses. MSMEs account for 83% private sector employment and improving our capacity will create more jobs. Another important factor is engagement. Engage all authorities daily. This will facilitate speedy resolve of challenges and understanding various opportunities to provide the best possible solutions in each sector. This will make sure the AfCFTA implementation is meeting expectations of young people and women. The recipe for business growth and job creation for a startup like ours is finance, light policies, trade barriers removal, and we need to be engaged in the implementation of the AfCFTA and trade policies. Above all, our business is ready to continue providing innovative products that are protecting the environment made from bamboo. Together, we are going to drive the AfCFTA agenda and the African economy into a force to reckon with. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Wow, Precious. Your name is truly precious with your activities. We are feeling very excited about bamboo. It's so natural. And then we heard from Cameroon about the natural products and using bamboo, you know, as the containers. This is really wonderful. You know, this reminds me of Obama's YALI, the Young African Leadership Initiative, that the cream of the crop young people from Africa was brought here. I was privileged to be a mentor to 25 of them. 500 came every year. You walk into the room, you are vibrated with innovations, innovative young people. There is a future for Africa, y'all. And so let's get ready as we hear from our people. And this is Eric with the food line. Eric, take the floor.
Hello, Doc. Hello, Dr. Margaret.
Are you there?
Dinah is available now, so we can take her.
All right, Eric, I'm sorry. Give us a minute. We're going to have Diana. Diana, please go right ahead.
Oh. Yes. Hi. Can you hear me?
We getting
all right, doesn't look like it's Diana. Oh, so what's going on there, Nick? It doesn't look like we have Diana on. Oh, she's the same one. She's the same one. Okay, go right ahead. Diana, go ahead. Are you still having connection problems or sound? All right, Diana, if you're not, if your connectivity is still an issue, we're gonna move on to have Eric, and then you keep working on it, and we're gonna have you right back, okay? All right, Diana?
Hello.
Oh, okay, yes, Nick, what's going on, technically?
Yeah.
Are we good? Are we good? Are we good to go with the young people? I think
please, we can go with the next person.
Okay. Oh, okay. So you're still working on the tech. All right, Eric, go ahead and take the podium. We're looking forward to seeing your innovative mind displayed.
I'm sorry, Doug. It seems we just lost Eric too.
Oh, we lost Eric. All right. While you're working on your connection, can we go to Wako? Wako Adunkna Wako. Please go ahead and make your presentation.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Let me show you the screen.
Go right ahead, and please be conscious of time.
All right. Okay. Have you seen my screen now?
Yeah, wait a minute. We still see you, not the screen.
Let me present in this way. If it's not presented to not run out of my time. I'm Adinya Haile. I am the co-founder of Haile Wago Integrated Farm and the founder of Adinya Haile Business Consulting Firm here in Ethiopia. Nice to have you all on this very great platform on this summit. So my engagement is, I'm engaged in, or my integrated farm is engaged in seed production and supply since 2016 as of Gregorian, not in Ethiopian calendar, in fact. And we have already commercialized our products, and we are in business right now. And what we are doing is, because of the food shortage in Ethiopia, we are, supplying high yield variety seeds to the smallholder farmers via the international organizations like FAO. We have already registered on the United Nations Global Marketplace, and using that platform, we are competing on tender bids. And having won the tender bids, we are doing our business in that way. Besides this, we are using also, the outgrower scheme by inculcating about 1,500 farmers locally. And we assist these farmers, and they are in return, technically equipped, and so that they in place return or resupply the seeds that they are producing on their farm. So we are in a business, and what I'm wishing, for Africa is, as per the Continental Agenda of 2063, that silencing the gun is very much important to stimulate businesses in Africa, especially in trade in AfCFTA. So silencing the gun is one very important precondition. The other one is interconnection among nations via infrastructural development, such as train lines and roads, is very much important to fully implement AfCFTA. So that is very important. So if countries collaborate, we can cope up with the poverty and unemployment problems prevailing in Africa. So thank you very much for having me, and nice to meet you again.
Well done. You have done well. All I heard was that it doesn't matter how much we talk about or think about and process. I think you've got an important sector, because if we're still hungry, we're going nowhere, right? Everyone has got to eat. So you are doing a fantastic job serving 1,500 farmers. I can tell you, if you multiply that, using that number as a reference to the 55 countries, you're talking 81,000 farmers at your disposal, if you're just going to use that as a scale. Yes. So 100,000 is thing, and we can also introduce you to other initiators like Foundation for Farming, who are really looking on how to help small-scale farmers really become commercialized. So there is hope for you, and I like the fact that it's young people like you who are also getting into farming. That is excellent. That is excellent to hear.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I don't know if Bashiri Mansoure is available.
Dinah is ready.
Diana's ready? Okay, let's do that. Diana, try again.
Hi guys, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Loud and clear, thank you.
Okay. So, can you see my screen?
We see it coming. Awesome.
Okay. So, my name is Nzambi Mate. I'm the founder of Jijenge Makers Limited. Jijenge is an alternative building product manufacturing company. Our first product line are pavers. So, ideally speaking, making plastic building products from plastic waste. So just to move on to the problem, in Nairobi, which is the capital city of Kenya, we generate about 500 metric tons of plastic waste every single day. And at the same time, we are having a demand of about 200,000 affordable housing units every year. So it is with this that it drove us to coming up with a solution of converting plastic waste into alternative building products. So what you see currently in the screen, those are plastic wastes. That is plastic waste and no cement. All that is just plastic converted to building products. To move on very swiftly, this is a picture of our production line. So those two are part of the machinery we have in terms of our production line. We made those two machines. They just take the plastic waste, they convert it to sand, and then we make the building products. Currently, as we speak, we have the capacity of making 1,500 pavers a day. To move on very swiftly to the team. Sorry for I'm jumping very fast to just spare us time. So this is the team. Sorry for that once again. So we are a team of four young people. Right now we are 14, but at this point in time we were 4. And then we have board advisories of 3 brilliant minds, both here in Kenya and outside Kenya. So to just move on to give an example of what we've been doing. So what you see in your screen, that's an example of our pavers. So those are the stones that you see in driveways, footpaths, garages, all those are the stones we make. And just keep in mind, all that is plastic waste. There is no cement in those pavers. So with these are just examples of some projects we have done currently here in Nairobi. This is an industrial site here in Nairobi. And this is a school. This is a school we have done here in Nairobi. All that is plastic waste. Like, for example, this project, we converted about 1.5 metric tons of plastic waste to make this school. So up to this point, we have been able to secure different awards. Like recently, we won the Unifying Champion of Earth Award, where we were able to showcase our product to different stakeholders, and also because of our goal towards promoting or rather achieving the sustainable goals of 9, 11, and 12. And our goal is to move on from there and diversify to actually make building products. Like, for example, this picture I am showing you right now. Wait for it. Like, this picture is actually a toilet for school, and all that is plastic waste. There is no cement there. So our goal is to be able to innovate around the construction space with that. So yeah, thank you very much.
Wow, that's amazing. Yana, we're talking about some creativity here. After here we come, our young people are taking over. And that's exactly what we are talking about. Our dear Dr. Ericana mentioned it. Open up, clear up those lines. Because all the way from Cameroon to Gambia and Kenya, Ethiopia, Malawi, and all of these places, whether we are looking at bamboo and we are looking about even the waste that have been thrown away, we are talking about sustainable development, and we are talking about limiting the big food impact of man on our environment. And so we are recycling in a fabulous way. We appreciate that business, and make sure we all are going to be looking to it and seeing you crossing the continent from the west to the east, the north, the south, the central, and of course the Global Institute will be right there with you to take it global. All right, that's wonderful. And all of these young people at this moment, we're moving straight to Bashiru Mansare. open space. Take it away.
Hello, my name is Bashir Mansouri. I'm from Sierra Leone, and I'm the founder of Open Space. Open Space is a social, it's a tech and social impact organization company that focuses on supporting youth-led enterprises. So let me check that before I go further.
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Carry on.
Right. Great. So in 2016, I co-founded a tech company called ICANSL, and it was a company that focused on training young people and children from as young as 8 to how to use computers. But then as I started my first company, I came to realize the struggles young people are going through in Sierra Leone especially, and I know it's the same for Africa. So what I did is I had to leave the company I co-founded and start something else because I wanted to help young people, youth-led entrepreneurs, so they can have the tools and resources they need because they have been really struggle for young people. So I started Open Space. Open Space also we create softwares, web development, and all these things for youth entrepreneurs. So in 2019, when I left ICANSL, I had nothing with me to actually start Open Space, and not even the fee to register the company. Can you imagine? It's less than $50 to register a company here in Sierra Leone, and I couldn't afford it. So now, what about having an office space when you can't even register your own business? And how can I have an office space? So what I did is this: I created a virtual office space that me and my coworkers use to operate remotely from our homes because we couldn't afford to have an office space. So we work from home using the virtual workspace that we built. But then since we started using it and we see that it was working for us, and we noticed other young people also are having this kind of problem, like they can't afford their office space. So we created Workstation, which was previously OS. It's a virtual workspace that helps you as an entrepreneur to connect with other entrepreneurs. Also, you can connect with your clients, sell your product online, and also you'll be able to create projects. Let me dive into Workstation so that you can see how it looks like and what it actually does. It's taking a little bit slow. All right, so probably like if you have your startup and you can't afford an office space, you'll be able to connect with your clients, with your co-workers remotely by creating, like if you have a project, if you want to connect with, you want to look for startups, or other entrepreneurs, you want to look for clients, you'll be able to do all that on Workstation. As you can see here, the networking side is where you connect with people, you connect with other entrepreneurs, and also you connect with clients. Project, you'll be able to create your own project to your co-workers, and then you can work on your project remotely. Directory, where if you have a product or services, you'll be able to market them on the directory, list your products and services so that other people can see and they can order for the services. And we have forum, blogs, wiki, and all of that. So the reason why we actually created Workstation, of course, Workstation has been useful during the COVID-19, but our main idea was not about COVID-19. We couldn't even think that we'll have something like COVID-19 back then in 2019. So we created Workstation so that we will help any startup that can afford a workspace so that they can work virtually. And now it has been more useful because people have been advised to stay home as much as they can and all of that. So other startups are using this to work remotely on their project. Thank you very much. My name is Bashir Mansari from Sierra Leone Open Space.
Thank you, Bashir. That is incredible. I don't know if any of the lingua you're using in terms of Workstation and this platform that, is something that our older generation is up to speed with.
Dr. Sam, I tell you about that. I'm talking about serious COVID solution from our young people. The young ones shall lead them, okay?
Absolutely. You know, the thought that's just crossing my mind as I'm hearing all of this, I think is series number 2 has to showcase more, you know, and we let them drive this agenda, you know. Why not? Why not?
I feel the same way. It looks like we should go on and bring in a whole lot more. But go right ahead.
I'll make sure I'll co-host with you. Yeah, that is exciting. I don't know if Gladys is back online to try one more time. Gladys, are you there?
I think she's not around.
Not around. Okay, well, that said, then we can definitely move to our last speakers of the day. And if they can really be to the point so that we can try and close on time. Mr. Peter Koji, who is the Secretary General for All Africa Students Union, if you would go first. Thank you so much for being with us. Please, sir, over to you.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Good afternoon to everyone. I'm excited to join the African Private Sector Summit on Doing Business under the African Continental Free Trade Area as a running voice for young people whose entrepreneurial abilities and abundant labor the AfCFTA must harness and utilize to boost the Africa single market. I would want to thank the organizers of this all-important summit. In particular, I want to thank the Association of African Universities for their continuous commitment to youth and student development at all times. The All Africa Students Union is the largest student movement in Africa, with over 71 members across the continent, representing tens of millions of students both in Africa and in the diaspora. In recent times, ASU has played a catalytic role in advancing the AU's bold initiatives, such as the STISA 2024, the CISA 25, the Agenda 2063, all of which require grassroots mobilization, sensitization, and everyone's involvement. To this end, ASU is more than willing to be a strategic partner to the forward march of the AfCFTA. In the last couple of days, we've been part of the summit, and we found it to be very insightful and informative. We're very happy that we're invited to be part of this program. I'd like to congratulate the young innovators who have just showed us some exciting works that they've been doing. If anything, they have demonstrated that the future of this world is indeed African. Throughout the pandemic, especially during the lockdowns, most of Africa's challenges were solved by young people through innovations, volunteerism, and sacrifice. All key moments in history have one thing in common: the active role of young people, and mostly students for that matter. The operationalization of the AfCFTA will not be any different. It is that African movement young people have relished for very long, and indeed we intend to seize it productively. Of course, this will only happen on the back of several active engagements with decision makers and power actors. The AfCFTA must convene the appropriate platform to engage youth groups across varied spaces to nurture a continental community of young leaders, with the aim to create a distinct class of young entrepreneurs across a broad range of professions in technological innovations, agribusiness, social entrepreneurship to drive African trade. Your Excellencies, ASU is particularly delighted with the openness with which the AfCFTA is being operationalized. The strong arm of the private sector is being encouraged to complement government efforts with a broader business community to drive trade. It is this interdependence that we believe would spur the economic growth that we need as a continent. Your Excellencies, I must add that our research papers, briefs, publications on trade integration in Africa have contributed enormously to the political economy of Africa. Your Excellencies, we propose 4 concrete actions geared towards youth inclusion as we move to operationalize the AfCFTA. 1, we call on governments and the and the AfCFTA to expedite phase 2 of the agreement, which entails intellectual property rights, competition, and investment, which we see will encourage innovation and originality in goods and services. The importance of the phase 2 is to encourage and trigger products and services that can make Africa competitive away from the traditional products that we're known for. The intellectual component should spur young Africans to innovate, to create and ideate valuable products and services that will enhance the single market. 2, we encourage the youth authorities in the various governments to include in their successive national youth development plans special initiatives to guide young entrepreneurs to make the most out of the single market. Young people will need the financial, technological, and inclusive support to be able to take advantage of the moment. We also propose at the 3rd level, we also propose that a research fund is established to encourage young Africans, especially those at the postgraduate level and even the undergraduate level, to conduct academic dissertations and theses on trade integration in Africa. This should offer the Continental Free Trade Secretariat some constant supply of scholarly information to be used by policy makers to fine-tune the Africa single market, which is at its development stage. Issues of security and good governance must also be brought to the fore. As we're aware, as a continent, we lose much of our resources through corruption. And so if we're going to make the Africa single market work, one of the key things that we might have to come to tackle will be corruption. As a single market synchronization regime, the AfCFTA presents a powerful and innovative solution to integrate smaller economies, circulate skill sets, move capital and other factors of production across these states into a large pool that can spur production. Young people have always been central to development efforts. If we harness them properly, they'll bring to bear their exuberance, their talent mobility that will drive and spur the trade that we need. It is our hope that the AfCFTA will be built on the shoulders of young people. Thank you very much.
Oh, wow, Dr. Sam, did you hear that? I tell ya, this is amazing. And we really want to connect more with the young people as they take turn with the universities and the union. I really like the idea of your connection, very close connection with AAU. I'm telling you, for this conference, you just watch out for what's about to happen, already happening a big way with that connection of the universities in Africa, the private sector, and our government coming down with some great policies to make trade very, very easy across the continent. I want to remind you, as you touch about research, there are all kinds of funding within Africa and of course globally that we need to tap from. Cross-cultural understanding, where our young people get from different parts of Africa. It is not a country, it is a continent, y'all, and we need to get to understand each other to be able to trade with each other. Our young people are also leading the way. Experiential learning. While we're talking about the 5 regions in Africa, or you know me, that I'm going to bring in the diaspora, the 6th region, as we bring in our young people to come in and meet. I can't wait for COVID to be over so they can come in, but despite that, virtually. So with your association, the Global Institute, that's what we do. We work with you to try to connect these young people for more innovation, sustainable development, bringing in the fundings from everywhere for research to take place in a marvelous way. I love you, Koje. You're just doing a great job there with your young people. We're moving right along. We actually miss, I think there is Eric with the food line. We call him, he wasn't ready then. Eric, if you are available, we're going to take you real quick before we go down to Mr. David Daughter from Afro Champions. Eric, would you take the podium, please?
Yes, can you? Hello?
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
welcome. Go ahead.
Well, my name is Eric. I'm the founder and the managing director of Foodline, a distribution hand of smallholder farmers whose specialization is non-genetically modified trees. And we are currently headquartered in Rwanda, where we are working closely with farmers. But let's go back and see how I started this journey. In fact, being an entrepreneur is not an easy thing. 2019 December, that's when I wrote, I deposited my resignation letter from corporate banking sector. And from that time, I took this challenge to sharing this agriculture sector. I started out with working with minimum resources, and it wasn't easy because being an entrepreneur in a landlocked country like Rwanda, which has limited resources, which has a high cost of capital, and which has has limited opportunities, as well as where 90% of infant startups fail in the first 3 years. It was not an easy thing. So I took this risk and I ventured in a minimum cost startup. So I started an e-commerce, a common e-commerce, and it was really doing well by then until everything fall apart when a lot of people spotlighted opportunities in this particular industry of e-commerce. So by then, I then switched to trading business. I've gone on farm and started working on farm, seeding, doing our manuals, and growing from there. The time have come when I started getting help from casual laborers, and that's when I started thinking about something new. And the idea that I had by then is to start working on contract management. So I deployed smallholder farmers and focused on supply, on value aspect. So today we buy produce from smallholder farmers, green whatever need to be green, package, and deliver to our retailers in public markets. But African Continental Trade Agreements had really, I took it as a golden opportunity for someone like me who operates in a landlocked country. And when I heard that 54 countries, African countries, have already signed the agreement and that 5 countries have ratified for this agreement, it was a great news. And we started integrating another strategy to penetrate other African markets, which is franchising. So we franchised 15 smallholder farmers in 5 more African countries to explore opportunities in those countries as well. So today we are celebrating our landmark in those 5 African countries, and we are looking forward to work with other youth in all over the continent, so as to increase, to boost our economy, as well as to make profits from those ventures of ours we create. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Eric. I'm glad we didn't miss out on you because you are already playing such a crucial role. And I think you and who was the other farmer on our outline there, Aduna Wako, should also have conversations since you are in the same field and interchange. So you guys could easily collaborate and take this further. We are heading towards our last speaker, and there will be a couple of crucial announcements, especially for the young people. So I'd like for you to hang on. Dr. Asfo, we're going to hand over to you now because you are our last speaker for the day, and then we'll do all our announcements. So I appeal to the young people, don't sign off, because there's a crucial announcement that you to really hear right now. So Dr. Asfo
talking about action, baby.
Dr. Asfo is president of Africa Business Council. We welcome you. Please, ma'am, go ahead. You may need to unmute yourself. Still muted.
Oh, I was muted, sorry. So it's my real pleasure to be with you here today, and for the role of the private sector and how the Africa Business Council can play its role in order to unify the strategies and the approaches of the Africa we want, the integrated Africa, the prosperous Africa. How can it be prosperous without empowering our African sector, our women and youth on the ground? If I can share some of the screen, if it is possible. I don't know if it's possible to share the screen for some slides. If you can give me I am still unable to share the screen, but Africa Business Council is the inclusion. How this Africa Business Council can be an umbrella for unifying all our efforts across the continent, because it includes all the voice of the private sector. It includes the business sector, the business council across the regional communities, the chambers of commerce, the private sector federations, the union of industries, the manufacturers associations, the women association, the youth association. We heard how the youth really very important what they have been really doing across all our African continent. So if we are really going to unify our continental implementation approach and strategies, we need to empower our African private sector towards the Africa 23 development agenda and the sustainable goals. So if we are talking about the sustainable goals with the 17 goals and our guiding vision for an integrated, prosperous, peaceful Africa, driven by its own citizens, and how the ecosystem for our education system that promote for entrepreneurship culture, how our Africa continent, which is the richest continent, yet its people is poor around the world. Why? Because we don't depend on scientific research and technology. We don't invest in our African brains. We don't industrialize our raw materials. We don't manufacture our drugs. We don't process our food technology. This is time really that we believe that in our African capabilities, strengthen our scientific education. We do not promote the science and technology as incentive for economic growth. We need to see that our African continent, more than 95% are micro, small, and medium enterprises. How we give a real policy and enabling environment for this? How do we address the Africa and the Africa intra-Africa trade? If we're talking about the AfCFTA now, and there's a huge market for 1.2 billion people, how can we make? If we have, as I always say, the challenges of the African enterprises and the intra-Africa trade, I call them the 8 Ps. The product development, the standardization, the quality of the product, the branding, the value addition for raw material designing, just as we heard from our young, lovely lady today about the packaging of her product. So how are we going to address this product development? How we address the presentation about packaging? How we address the pricing and how we have a market study for the pricing? And also it's really about the popularity, which is the marketing, the advertising across Africa and the world. The payment system, the financial services, the legal services, the method of payment, the posting, which is shipping, It's about how we invest in our infrastructure, including air, sea, and road, how to have a real infrastructure, even with our technology and infrastructure for our internet connection, how we have a proper information about the product, the SMEs, the trade agreements and policy. And I like very much what our brother, the speaker before, who about the observatory with reference to all the businesses we need to have. And that's actually one of the role of Business Council. What we can do is about how we have a directory for all the businesses that is present on the ground, the manufacturers association, the industry, so we don't have to import from any outside the continent, but we first strengthen the capacity of what is present on our continent and to have the real power. There's a power to achieve and to lead and to market, to have the property rights, the intellectual property rights. So it's really about how we, the public-private sector, the government, the civil society, the private sector, the academia, the media, we need to have a real strategy. And if we're talking about strategy of unifying, it's about awareness and building the entrepreneurial culture. It's about access to information. It's about advocacy and lobbying. It's about access to training and capacity building. We need our African leaders to understand that we as private sector are the implementers of the AfCFTA. We need to build the capacity of our human resources to develop competitive products. If we want to promote Made in Africa products, we need to have a competitive. We have to finance scientific research to have a commercial product. This is a core issue, and that's why there is a lot of issues that we have to do with reference to linking the scientific research and the public-private sector interface. How we have patency laws. Our young entrepreneurs have a lot of ideas, but we need to have a patency laws that would allow them to be the owners of their things. So the real solution is about investment in science and technology, investment in our African resources, including women and youth. And if we're talking about the youth, if nobody invested in Bill Gates in 78, you see here, now there will never be a Bill Gates or Microsoft. So, and also the women of Africa. If nobody invested in women, Africa will not have agriculture. So we really need about a private sector engagement, empowerment, education, entrepreneurship, employment, and economic disparities. And we see how a real power. And I always say that we as African private sector have to real do and have the power. Power is the potency, the capacity to act and to implement. So today, as the Africa Private Sector Summit, if we don't unify ourselves, if we don't have strategies, we have no power. And the real trident of empowerment that I always say, 3 pillars, is the PPP, the people, the policy, and the product. So we have to invest in the private sector and the people of Africa, including women and youth. We have to promote our policies. One of the great policies we are talking is about government procurement, how the African leaders put affirmative laws to have government procurement. At least 30% of all government procurement goes to SMEs for our African private sector. It cannot happen that all the procurement of the countries go to non-African products if they are present. And of course, of the product, we talked about the value of the product. So really how to achieve it is about popularization of AfCFTA, and it's about the education, the capacity building, the trainer, the mentorship program, the access to financial resources, access to technology and information, technical assistance and support, advocacy, and we need to have projects. And we need to build the culture of our entrepreneurship, our science and technology. And I always say I call it the triple S, to change the culture. We Africans have all the human resources, have the natural resources. We need to change it through the triple S, the society, the school, and the curriculum of STEM education, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. The state have to put laws for empowering our African private sector. So this is my really summary for about the pillars of African enterprise development and economic transformation. It's about indigenous capacity and human resources. It's about internal policies and reforms. It's about increased productivity and upgrading value chain, innovation, science and technology, information communication, infrastructure and energy, investment, finance, access to credit, integration, regionally industrialization, and international and regional market. And we have to be based on integrity, accountability, intergenerational dialogue and transfer of knowledge, inclusion and diversity, and institutional capacity. So I just want to now say that If we are going to lobby and advocate for legislation for a better ecosystem, we need to address our heads of states. We have to link science and technology with entrepreneurship. We have to promote women and youth in science and technology. This is one of the campaigns we're really working for, is about Made in Africa. Fabriqué en Afrique, Sonia of Africa, the 4 languages. We started the Made in Africa campaign. We need to promote our African private sector. We need to have a competitive private sector Africa. We need, I always really say, this is for all our African leaders when they say they want to have Africa free from hunger, and I say not free from hunger, but well-nourished, not free from disease, but healthy, not free from poverty, but wealthy, not free from illiteracy, but well-educated. It is time for our economic empowerment for Africa. Why? To achieve financial independence. Why? To have our power of choice and voice. We Africans has now to really promote our industrialization. We need to promote our infrastructure, our Made in Africa program. Africa Business Council is there, inclusive for all of us, and it is time that all of us unite for the Africa we want, the prosperous, peaceful, integrated Africa that will engage everybody. So my fellows, my sisters and brothers, it's time for Africa, time to have our economic independence. Our founding fathers have already struggled for their political independence. Now it's time for our economic independence. I thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Amani. Shout out to you, powerful woman. You know what? I never knew you before, but during the planning committee, your name kept coming up. We gotta have Dr. Amani. She's gotta be here. We saw the energy that you have brought into here. I am telling you, AfCFTA, here we come, because this time we are doing it right. Africa is doing it right with power pack women like her and all the exquisite speakers that we have put together. Hey, talk about young people now. Oh, they came out in style on their own. Again, the one I was talking about this, we are doing it. Thank you so much, Dr. Manny. You know, as I listened to you and I heard a lot about research and development, linking that together, I'm telling you, AAU is on board, because the research part is coming up. The private sector and all the funding, the government, we're going to pull all our stops to make sure we're doing it right. Funding the research. The young people talked about that as well. I think it was Peter Koje. He touched on that for young people to be able to be in college and do research as well. What about property rights? It's an encouragement when folks are sitting down and creating something and knowing that they will be able to make money from it without somebody stealing their intellectual property. I was the keynote speaker on Monday, the Women's Day for AAU. And you know, that was the one singular question that was asked to me about intellectual property, even in the university. So a patent and copyright laws must be important. And the issue was why you create something and somebody else comes to take it as if it is theirs. Here in the universities in the US, and I'm sure around the world, we frown at it very seriously. My young people in classes will see that on my syllabus. Stealing somebody's intellectual property, plagiarism, it's a crime. And so we must have policies to make sure that these things are not happening, to encourage people to be creative and then be able to have the benefit from it before we begin to talk about public entities. So thank you very much for that inspirational presentation. And nobody needs to ask you if you are the president of African Business Council. It shows all over you. Oh, continue with what you're doing. Africa is going to be a whole lot greater. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. We're moving right along. I think we still have David Dotte. Afro champions. That's another name that comes so highly in circulation as many as the other ones. Mr. Daughter, we are looking for you. If you are there, could you please put up your hand? To have quite a few David online. If you can just put up your hand, our technical team will identify you and give you the floor. Would you please let us know? Mr. David Daughter. Oh, awesome. Mr. Daughter, please unmute yourself. Oh.
Yeah, hello. Okay. I was trying to unmute myself earlier, but I had been muted by the host. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so thank you, Madam Chair. I'm supposed to share a few thoughts on the way forward. I spoke a couple of days ago on the paradigm shift. And I think my thoughts on the way forward will essentially focus on that same paradigm shift. I think it's been a wonderful week so far, and quite a lot of ideas have come up, quite a lot of energetic presentations. And it's very clear that we are all aimed at going in one direction to create the Africa we all want. And Dr. Amani has definitely set the tone just before this presentation. There are about 5 key things that I think we must recognize or we must deal with in order to go forward as the private sector. And these, for me, are the 5 things any group of people must deal with if they want to make a change. The first one is to recognize what they already have. And I'll take each of these one by one in the next 15 minutes or so. The second one is to have a strategy. Dr. Amani also mentioned, and deliver on that strategy. And in delivering on that strategy, they must deliver it in a focused and a very united manner. That's the third. The fourth is that they must constantly improve upon that which they already have. And finally, they must exploit new opportunities which emerge based on what they do. If I were to take this and to look at the Africa private sector landscape, recognizing that which you already have is one of the things that clearly we are beginning to see. And there are many, many of them, and it's not my intention to list all of them. Definitely population is one. 1.2 billion people isn't any joke. That's a big market. But depending on your mindset, you may call that as a poor continent, or you may call that as a big market to tap into. And I highly recommend that as businesses, we constantly spread to the rest of the population that we must see 1.2 billion people as a big market. If China's 1.4 billion people is a big market, I do not see why Africa's 1.2 billion people is not a big market. So we should consciously prevent people from telling us that our population is a problem. It is an asset. The other thing we have is an opportunity to grow. If we look at Africa's GDP, they will keep telling you it's 3.6, but our GDPs are looked at better when you look at it from a purchase power parity perspective. And from a purchase power parity perspective, Africa's purchase power parity is 6.6 trillion, more than twice that of Russia. So when our leaders gather in Russia to go and negotiate agreements with Russia collectively, if we were to come together, we are more than twice the size of Russia in terms of purchase power parity of GDP. So again, we must look at the advantage we have and how we can grow the opportunity that is presented to us. And then there are many, many other things. Now, if I go to point number 2, which is the other thing we need, or any group of people need in order to make a change and grow and attain their goal, it is to have strategy. That's one thing Africa has lacked for many, many years. Now, China's growth and the growth of all the countries we like to mention, Singapore, Malaysia, etc., only because they had strategy and they delivered on the strategy. Do we have strategy? Yes. Recently, I was asked, what is that strategy? For once, we have the AfCFTA, and that is the strategy itself. AfCFTA is a strategy document from every angle that you call strategy. So we do have that. So we are satisfied point number 2. And from that strategy, the things about rules of origin, the member area, etc., they create all the opportunities we need to go forward. So again, as a way forward, we should recognize that for once we have 55 countries with a central strategy, 54 of whom have signed, and 36 of whom have ratified. That's more than the European Union started with. When the European Union started, it was just 6 countries before it grew in the 70s. So Africa has done much, much more than the European Union did before they became what they are. The third is one of the areas we have a problem, which is whether we are focused on the delivery of that strategy in a united manner. That's a difficult one. We are not a united continent. We are disunited as a result of the partition externally, and we are disunited even internally in each of the individual countries, both as a result of politics, tribe, religion, whatever it is. But is there something you can do about it going forward? Yes. Businesses all have a common goal to make profit. And if businesses unite around their central goal, it is possible for businesses to be the catalyst, and business unites us to that center. And through that business unity, we can help deliver that strategy. And that's quite important for us to recognize. If we don't, and we leave it, and again, this is something I'm going to touch on again, and we leave it to our politicians alone, then you will find, as it's already happening, that notwithstanding that one of the objectives of the CFTA is for Africa to negotiate as a collective, you will find that individual countries are already still negotiating individually with other countries instead of doing it under the umbrella together as AfCFTA. So businesses have a role to play, and I will explain that shortly. The fourth, as I indicated, is to add value to what you already have. And there are many, many things we have that we can add value to. It's easy for us to refer to our natural resources and talk about gold, diamond, oil, and gas, etc. Yes, we can add value to that, or we should add value to that from the point of view of beneficiation, etc., etc. But that's not even where my focus is. My focus is on how to ensure that the large 90%, 80% SMEs, which form the bulk of our businesses, are integrated into the value chain. And how do they add value to what they have? It's in the common things, feeding the people. 1.2 billion people need to be fed. And that means adding value to food and the agri-sector and the backward linkages that enable us to be able to deliver food to the people. Another example, which is simple, is clothing the people. 1.2 billion people need to wear clothes. And if we focus on adding value to the fabric and the cotton we have on the continent, those are simple things we can do that integrate the SMEs into the value chain, and suddenly will create the multinationals that we need in order to grow the continent and become competitive globally. So we should be looking at that and campaign in the sector for people to add as in the simple things that we do every day as Africans. So that's my fourth point. My fifth and the last point in regard to the way going forward is exploit the opportunities which emerge, and at the same time remove the weaknesses which occur as you go along. Once you are charting a path, we will find out that there are weaknesses along as we go along, and definitely opportunities will emerge. And because we are united, or if we are united around the strategy of the AfCFTA and of adding value, and adding value means industrializing, etc., etc., clearly the opportunities which emerge are opportunities that will give us more advantage. But there will be weaknesses, and the weaknesses is very easy for others to exploit and tell us that, oh, you are poor, and therefore you should stop pursuing this part of value addition, remain a raw material producer and ship it to another place for it to be value to be added for you, because Adam Smith said that in 1740 or 1650 or whatever. If we continue to be immersed in these weaknesses that we have and don't change our mindset, then we are never going to be able to let the AfCFTA give us the objective, or we are not going to attain the objective of the AfCFTA. So the AfCFTA as a strategy has been developed. It's a good strategy. The rest is behoved upon us to And as a way forward, if you look at the 5 points I have talked about, it is only the third point, which is focused delivery of strategy in a united manner, which depends on the public sector. Let me go back. Recognizing what we already have is in the private sector's hands. And if you recognize it, you utilize it. Delivering on the strategy is a private sector function because each company and each businessman can deliver on strategy. Adding value is a private sector function. Exploiting the opportunities and addressing the weaknesses is a private sector function. It is having the public sector unite us to lead us. That is where we have a challenge. And that's a very big challenge. But can the private sector do something about it as the way forward? Yes. And it's a big part we can do. The private sector can become a force of unity. And the private sector can become a force of pressure. And I think Dr. Amani emphasized that. A force of pressure in such a way that the politicians will end up helping us to deliver on the strategy. Already they have delivered the strategy itself in terms of the AfCFTA. It is now upon us to make sure that we are constantly putting pressure on them. And I've made this point several times, that before AfCFTA was signed, this South African trade had already moved from 5% about 15 years earlier to 18% by 2018 or so. So even without AfCFTA, the private sector is trading, which means that the private sector can do more by putting pressure on the political leaders. And I want to emphasize one point that I think going forward, the private sector must recognize. The affairs of Africa and the concept of CFTA is too important to leave in the hands of politicians alone. It is just too important to leave it to politicians alone. Politicians are doing very well, but the private sector must come together and work with the politicians and constantly demand that they focus on what they have promised to deliver. And how do we do that? It's not too difficult. Already we have associations like FAWESI, FAWEMA, etc. And this very forum that we are at is organized by the private sector. These associations should become the center where they now work with the regional economic blocks like ECOWAS, like SADC, like COMESA, like these, and drive into their minds the need to remain focused and how they can actually operationalize all the multiple issues, working with such associations. And in such a united manner, you will find that the remaining 4 aspects of the things I talked about will all come into play. And that way, I do believe if we do it, between now and 2025, we should begin to see an Africa which is beginning to shape on a new paradigm. And Madam Chair, these are my thoughts, and I think they are some of the things we need to consider seriously going forward. Thank you.
Mr. David Dutte, Afro Champions. I'm not surprised when your name was roaming around so highly. We got to have him here. And you have proven yourself. We are so excited to have you here, sir. Thank you for your input. Thank you for your insight. The 5 points. We need to recognize what we have. That is awesome. Move into the strategy. Without the strategy, we are still thinking within the box. We got to think outside the box. And when we strategize, we got to move into a powerful delivery system. And then stay on the ball to keep improving on what we have. And do not forget what's coming up, the opportunities that are there. Take care of the threats, but grab those opportunities. And I know you've nailed it. You've nailed the coffin. Thank you so much. We appreciate you, sir.
Thank
you. At this moment, sure. We're going to move right along. We have quite a bit of announcement to deliver. And we do have a video that we want you to kind of just sit back, relax, have some fun, just like I have been having all day with Dr. Sam, my co-moderator of the session. We're going to have that video in a minute. But before we have that video, I'm going to call on Mr. Maxwell. I call him my brother, who is in charge of AAU Erica. Mr. Maxwell, I know you have a powerful announcement to make. Can you just take a minute, just 1 minute, to let folks hear that? Thank you. Mr. Maxwell, AAU.
Trade integration, like